Aloha and welcome to A Course in Miracles. We're doing the workbook for students and we're on lesson 96. Salvation comes from our one self. And yesterday we did I am one self with a capital S, one self united with my Creator. And this one self is where my salvation comes from. In these series that we're looking at now, the Course is dealing with the two aspects of the two choices that we think that we have, as in the ego and our true self. We're dealing with the man-made self, the self that the personality that we've created in our own mind, and then the self that we truly are, the Son of God, or you could say the Son of Man and the Son of God, the ego and spirit. So we're looking at these, and we're looking at them with Jesus or with the Holy Spirit. And we're seeing them in a way that we've never seen before, in order that we might see the truth and be able to distinguish between what is an illusion and what is true. And to be able to go beyond what we have perceived ourselves to be as a separate body and a separate self, and to discover who we really are, which is the Son of God, the Christ in us, the eternal one. So let's read and see a little more deeply into these two facets that we've been looking at here. And with the idea that the Course is bringing us to a place where we make another choice, and where our motivation for making that other choice is to see things the way they really are, not the illusion of the way we perceive them to be. And in order to do that, it gives us these exercises that we do throughout the day in order that we can meet and discover our true self. That it's really there. It's not we're just reading this book and absorbing some philosophy. But the goal is to really encounter the divine nature inside of us. Although you are one self, with a capital S, you experience yourself as two, as both good and evil, loving and hating, mind and body. This sense of being split into opposites induces feelings of acute and constant conflict, like the warring between, the cartoon of you have the demon on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder, and we kind of feel like they're warring, even though we learn from the Course that the Holy Spirit in us and our higher self doesn't war against the ego, because the ego doesn't really exist. It's not tricked into thinking that there's really something there for it to fight against. So it just doesn't give it any energy. So this sense of being split into opposites induces feelings of acute, constant conflict and leads to frantic attempts to reconcile the contradictory aspects of this self-perception. So we're constantly trying to find the balance here between what we feel like we are, as though, this is the real me. I do these crazy things, kind of like in Romans 7, the Apostle Paul said, the things I want to do, I don't do, and the things I don't want to do, I do. Well, what is this? This is the sin in me, and who's going to set me free from this law of sin and death? This battle is the same battle that he was talking about. But is the battle real? You have sought many such solutions in trying to reconcile these perceived two parts of us. And none of them has worked. The opposites you see in you will never be compatible. Because one is real and the other one doesn't exist. But one exists. The fact that truth and illusions cannot be reconciled, no matter how you try, what means you use, and where you see the problem, must be accepted if you would be saved. Until you have accepted this, you will attempt an endless list of goals you cannot reach, a senseless series of expenditures of time and effort, hopefulness, and doubt. Each one is futile as the one before, and failing as the next one, the next attempt surely will. Problems that have no meaning cannot be resolved within the framework they are set. So the framework is us seeing ourselves in a body in this world, and these problems that they have meaning to us, but to the Holy Spirit and to our higher self and who we really are, they have no meaning. So they can't be resolved in an illusionary world. So they can't be brought together in this framework. Two selves in conflict could not be resolved, and good and evil have no meeting place. The self you made can never be yourself. Nor can yourself, your true self, be split in two and still be what it is. It's like, if you think of God as love, but he also does all these loving things, then he can't be love. He can't be unconditional love if he has all these conditions. You see what I'm saying? They're like mutually exclusive of each other, like light and dark. So the self we made, the self, our true self, cannot be split in two, like a good self and a bad self, and still remain what it is. And it must forever be, because it's eternal. A mind and a body cannot both exist. And this is talking about a spiritual mind and a physical body. Make no attempt to reconcile the two, for one denies that the other can be real. If you are physical, your mind is gone from your self-concept, for it has no place which it could be really part of you. If you're spirit, then the body must be meaningless to your reality. And this can sound a bit confusing and sound a little bit confusing to me, but it's kind of like if we are spirit, and spirit is everywhere and all things, like God, all omnipotent, it can't be a body, because a body is limited. And if you think of spirit as being deathless, birthless, eternal, it can't be a body, because a body is like a breath of air. It's in the light of eternity, it's about that long. Just a moment. We're here. We're gone if we're a body. So this is kind of how I think, for me anyway, at this point, this is the way I understand what it's talking about here, that we can't really be both of those things because they deny the other. We can't be unlimited and limited. I mean, a lot of people have tried to say, yeah, that's exactly what they are, or that's exactly what Jesus was when he came to the earth. But this course is saying, no, they can't both be true. So, two selves in conflict. Wait. If you are spirit, then the body must be meaningless to your reality. If you are physical, your mind is gone from your self-concept, for it has no place in which it could really be a part of you. And it's talking about the spiritual mind. Not the brain, but the spiritual mind. Spirit makes use of mind as means to find its self-expression. And the mind which serves the spirit is at peace and filled with joy. Its power comes from spirit, and it is fulfilling happily its function here, which is salvation, forgiveness, freedom. Yet mind can also see itself divorced from spirit and perceive itself within a body it confuses with itself. And that's exactly the state that we find ourselves in, where mind has confused itself and perceived itself within a body and confuses itself with this body. Without its function, then, it has no peace. And happiness is alien to its thoughts. And that's where we find ourselves. And that's what salvation is discovering that that's not really who we are, and being free from this illusion. Yet mind, apart from spirit, cannot think. It has denied its source of strength, sees itself as helpless, limited, and weak. And that's how we kind of see ourselves. We get sick, we're limited, we're weak. We can be killed. Disassociated from its function now, it thinks it's alone and separate, attacked by armies massed against itself, and hiding in the body's frail support. Now must it reconcile unlike with like, for this is what it thinks that it is for. So the mind that is in ignorance and forgetfulness, that thinks that it's in this body, it knows, it has this knowledge that it is more, but it finds itself, perceives itself to be less. So these paradoxical things, good and bad, all the limited and unlimited, it's trying to reconcile what it feels to be true with what it perceives to be true. And it can't do that, because one is an illusion and one is real. And as long as it believes in the illusion, it blinds it to what is real. So waste no more time on this. Who can resolve the senseless conflicts which a dream presents? And that's what this life is likened to in the Course, is a dream. Because only in a dream could these type of illusions exist. They couldn't exist in reality, because reality can't be changed. And that's the atonement principle, that you are the same as you've always been, as you were created. And if you could only think of yourselves as having an alien will, living in separation from God and from each other in a dream, or in an illusion. What could the resolution mean in truth? What purpose could it serve? What is it for? So in the dream, we can't resolve this, because it's irresolvable. Salvation cannot make illusions real. And if we're treating these illusions as if they're real, that's kind of what we've been doing, and we're trying to change what we see outside of us, believing it to be real, but it isn't real, and so it can't really be saved, in the sense of, how do you save something that isn't really there? Salvations cannot make illusions real, nor solve a problem that does not exist. Perhaps you hope it can. Yet would you have God's plan for the release of his dear Son bring pain to him and fail to set him free? Yourself, your true self, retains its thoughts, and they remain within your mind and in the mind of God. The Holy Spirit holds salvation in your mind and offers it the way to peace. Salvation is a thought that you share with God, because his voice accepted it for you and answered in your name that it was done. Thus is salvation kept among the thoughts yourself holds dear and cherishes for you. So your true self holds that thought of salvation. Salvation comes from our one self. It doesn't come from the ego. We will attempt today to find this thought that salvation holds dear. I mean that our true self holds dear. This thought of salvation. We will attempt today to find this thought whose presence in your mind is guaranteed by Him who speaks to you from your one self. That's the Spirit. Our hourly 5-minute practices will be a search for Him, the Holy Spirit, within your mind. Salvation comes from this one self, through Him who is the bridge between your mind and it. So there's salvation, it says, comes from this one self, our true self, through the bridge, which the Course says the bridge is the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the thought of God that came with us into this dream, the Holy Spirit. So, we're going to wait patiently and let the Spirit, Him, speak to you about yourself, your true self, and what your mind can do, restored to it and free to serve its will. Once our mind is free and restored to our true self, so our true self is expressing itself through our mind. That's what we're trying to reach today in our 5-minute times at the beginning of each hour. So begin with this, saying this: salvation comes from my one self. Its thoughts are mine to use. So we're in fighting, acknowledging that salvation comes from our true self, and we're asking or agreeing that the thoughts, our true self thoughts, are mine to use. Then seek its thoughts and claim them as your own. These are your own real thoughts that you have denied. And let your mind go wandering, because you let your mind go wandering in a world of dreams to find illusions in their place. Here are your thoughts, the only ones you have. And salvation is among those thoughts. So find it there. It's not out there in the world somewhere, but it's in our mind, in our true self. And that's what we're looking for. And that's where we're looking, in a place that we can find it. If you succeed, the thoughts that come to you will tell you that you are saved and that your mind has found the function that it sought to lose. Your self will welcome it and give it peace, restored in strength that will again flow out from spirit to the Spirit in all things, created by the Spirit as itself. Your mind will bless all things. Confusion done, you are restored. For you have found yourself. Yourself knows that you cannot fail today. Perhaps your mind remains uncertain yet a little while, but be not dismayed by this. The joy yourself experiences, it will save for you. And it will yet be yours in full awareness. Every time you spend 5 minutes of the hour seeking Him who joins your mind and self, you offer Him another treasure to be kept for you. Each time today you tell your frantic mind salvation comes from your one self. You lay another treasure in your growing store, and all of it is given everyone who asks for it and will accept the gift. Think then, how much is given unto you to give this day? Let it be given you. This giving and receiving are one. So that's our lesson for the day. Salvation. Salvation comes from my one self. Hope you have a great day today, wherever you are. We are one. And because we are one and we share the same mind, I can send you strength and joy and peace and happiness and share that with you. So bless you, and I will see you tomorrow. Mahalo.